joining us tonight. I'm Jed Peterson, I'll be moderator, but I think we'll just wait a little bit longer for some people to join. And once you come in, please just mute yourself, and then we'll get started soon. All right, well, I think we'll get started then. So I'm Jed Peterson. I'm an intern with RTT, and I'll be our moderator tonight for our networking and information session for RTT. We're so glad and happy that you are attending tonight, and I think we can get started. So we'll be providing a general overview of RTT, our international impact, our youth and climate activism, as well as letting you know a little bit more about our upcoming events and our youth climate forum. So our speakers tonight are Christian Chabanu, Sajani Patel, Patricia Agnes, Jack Moses, and Isaac Lee. And then after hearing from our speakers, you'll also have the opportunity to go into breakout rooms where we can learn more about each other's activist work and our respective organizations. So with that, I think I'll hand it off to Christian and Chabanu. Christian is the Policy and Advocacy Coordinator of Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and he is also a coordinator of Reverse the Trend. Thank you so much. And Christian, I think you can get started.
Yes, thank you, Jed, so much. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar, which will focus on, just providing a brief overview about Reverse the Trend and our activities, and an opportunity to network with all of you amazing activists. So this is our website, rttreversingthetrend.com, and the focus is on amplifying the voices of young people who have been affected by nuclear weapons and climate change. So we have educational resources, as well as a docu-series, which we'll touch upon. And then also many partners, which includes nuclear disarmament groups, including Peace Boat US, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, MEI, the Marshall Leeds Educational Initiative, Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, the Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy, Amplify Youth Network, the UN Association of Fiji, as well as many climate groups, including Climate Cardinals, Zero Hour NYC, and we're also a proud partner of ICAN, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. And I would be remiss to say, I should have added, that we're also, Bomb Shelter is also a partner of Reverse the Trend. So I just wanted to provide an overview of our team. So if we could click on that. So we have a really great, fantastic group of coordinators, including myself, Lovely Umayam, and Danielle Semler. So we have Lovely, who is the founder and creative producer from Bomb Shelter. And she really focuses on the creative aspects and looking at the connections between arts and nuclear policy and disarmament. And if we scroll up a bit, we also have Danielle Samler, who is a fellow for the Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy. And she's really been very engaged with all of our youth coordinators, as well as helping me with the educational resources. And we really believe that, that in order for RTT to be successful, it's crucial to engage with activists in the field. And that's where we've assembled a dynamic group of advisors. So I should also say our spokesperson is Selena Leem, who is a Marshallese climate warrior. So our advisors include Benedict Kabua Madison from the Marshall Islands. He is now with MEI, the Marshallese Educational Initiative, which is based in Springdale, Arkansas. And he's been really involved in both, climate, nuclear, and youth engagement. Next, we have Dr. April Brown, who's the co-founder and current president of the Marshallese Educational Initiative. And then next, we have Runa Ray, who is a fashion designer from India, and she uses fashion as activism to advocate for policy change. And she's worked extensively on the Sustainable Development Goals. And then we also have Ahmed Ali, who is the founder and president of the UN Association of Fiji, really promoting Pacific activism and encouraging young people from the Pacific region to really rise up and take action and engage. And he's extremely passionate in the field. He's really advocating, for the Pacific voices to really take on, strong grassroots focus, and believes that no one should be left behind. Next, we have Masako Toki, who is the Senior Project Manager for the Non-Proliferation Education Program at CNS, which is the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey. And Masako helps us with educational programs, as well as engaging with young people from across the world. Next, we also have Jim Anderson, who is a president of Peace Action New York State, and he's a long-time civil rights and peace activist. And we also have Dr. Vincent Ntandi, who is the author of African Americans Against the Bomb, Nuclear Weapons, Colonialism, and the Black Freedom Movement. And he's helping us with looking at the intersectionality of nukes and racism, and really, helping us with engaging with marginalized youth, and helping us with a very recent initiative that we're planning, a journal on race, politics, climate, and how nuclear weapons intersect those issues. And then next, which we're very excited to announce, we have David Newman, who is a Rotarian at in Winnipeg, and he's very involved with our emerging chapter in Canada and promoting youth engagement. And he's from Winnipeg, which just became which just became a supporter of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons Cities Appeal. The city of Winnipeg recently endorsed the appeal. And then finally, we have Professor Esther Yazzie Lewis, who is from the Navajo Nation. And she co-authored the book, The Uranium Mining and the Navajo People, and the Navajo people in uranium mining. And she has been helping us with engaging with First Nations and Indigenous communities. So overall, it's really vital that we collaborate and work with activists from different regions, and we work with those activists, with experts from the field. So we're not sweeping in and imposing our views, we're working with the community, which is imperative. So that is the basic overview of Reverse the Trend, and you'll hear more about our educational initiative as well as our docuseries later on in the program. So I'll pass the floor to Jed.
Thanks so much, Christian. And then more to talk about our impact as RTT is Sajani Patel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sajani Patel. I've been an intern with Reverse Trend since 2019. And for our impact, we try to focus on an approach that focuses on youth and frontline communities, as Christian mentioned, and using our platform to amplify their voice rather than inputting our own. So Reverse Trend has created a curriculum and toolkit which I will show you right now. And these were created to help educators facilitate them in educating the youth about disarmament and its intersectionality with issues such as climate change, because this is something that's typically gets overlooked or left out in the regular curriculum that is taught nowadays. And so this is something really cool that we created, and it has a bunch of different lesson plans that cover like a lot of different topics, all the way back from the history of uranium mining and nuclear weapons, all the way up to the impacts that they've had, how the anti-nuclear movement has progressed, what needs to be done, all kinds of things like that. And so another thing that we do is we also like to work with Marshallese youth. And so what we've done with them is we've done a few different events where they get to tell their stories on how nuclear weapons and nuclear testing has impacted their families, their culture, their home, and they've been able to express their thoughts and opinions about it through art. And we've done events with them where they can speak on it and really collaborate with each other, as well as collaborate with other youth that may not be as familiar with the issues that is going on in the Marshall Islands. And so that was the curriculum, and I can show you the toolkit. And so the toolkit is really just an informational tool to help guide furthering education and awareness about the issues, as well as intersectionality with things like racial injustice and socioeconomic inequality, things like that. So like Christian said, the main thing that we do is we don't want to project ourselves onto this, right? We really want to use our platform, use our resources to help these youth and help these frontline communities amplify their voices and make sure their stories of how nuclear testing and waste has impacted their life is heard and is truly amplified, since they have been silenced in the media for such a long time. And if it will let me go back to the top, I can show you, here we are, the docuseries. So another way that we're raising awareness and helping educate others is through this docuseries that we've created. So this docuseries is an initiative that is going to be it's going to have a global coverage. And so basically there's going to be different segments on different areas of the world and different types of coverages. So there's going to be like stuff on how it has affected the climate, oceans, communities, and things like that. So we would really appreciate all of your help to further our efforts in trying to raise more awareness and get people more educated about disarmament and climate change and why these two existential crises are so important.
Thank you so much, Sajani. Now I'm going to pass it on to Patricia, who is a youth coordinator from UPenn, and she's going to be discussing youth and climate advocacy.
Hi everyone. So yeah, like Jed said, my name is Patricia Agnes, and I'm an intern here at Reverse the Trend, and I'm going to be a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania. And so in recent years, we've definitely seen this massive and international push towards climate justice. And my own personal background within all this is that I directly organize with the climate movement, and I organize from the city level all the way up to the national level with various different groups. And so I had enough experience with both climate activism and the fight for nuclear disarmament to understand that these two issues are essentially mutually inclusive, in that, you know, we cannot truly achieve the climate goals of a safe and clean future if we don't first address the issues behind nuclear weapons and nuclear waste. And so really at the end of the day, both fields are working towards the same goal and are really just fighting the same fight. And so RTT, Reverse the Trend, is essentially trying to organize within that intersection. And something that I personally realized is that nowadays, climate change is definitely a hyper visible issue, which is great because, you know, there's a lot of support and there's a lot of policy changes that are finally happening. But the problem is, if we don't lend that same visibility to nuclear issues, then we're not completely addressing the whole picture. And so one thing I know is that there's definitely far less youth in the dialogue surrounding nuclear non-proliferation. And so what we want to do with the Zoom and as an organization is bridge that connection and ensure that there's a permanent dialogue between both climate change and the fight for nuclear disarmament. And essentially, we're here to support youth climate advocacy because, that really is the reason why we're slowly progressing and starting to make changes that are really and truly necessary. And RTT already has partnerships with various climate organizations like Christian mentioned earlier, like 0 Hour and with Climate Cardinal. And we wanted to expand that and make sure that we're reaching broader audiences of youth climate activists.
Thank you so much, Patricia. And then now we have Jack Moses. Jack is a student at Fordham University, and he's going to be discussing the upcoming events that we have.
Thank you, Jed. So we have 4 major events planned for this summer. The first of which is an RTT Francophone conference, which is going to be held on July 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, but it's going to be held in French. So we have NAPF and ICANN sponsoring the event. And at the core of the event is going to be youth engagement. We have Algerian and French youth both speaking at the event. So the conference is going to inform listeners about the history and consequences of French nuclear testing in Algeria. And it's going to be the opening of Reverse the Trend's Francophone network. It's going to be hosted by 2 of our interns, Matilda and Donatella. And it's going to encourage youth to be involved in the nuclear disarmament movement and to learn more about the legacy of French nuclear testing in Algeria. So the next event we're planning is a peace festival to honor the victims of the atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. This is going to take place on August 7th on the anniversary of the use of the nuclear weapons in Japan. And we're going to hold the event in person in New York City. Right now, we believe the Selena Hotel in Chelsea. It's a beautiful location, and we're really looking forward to having events back in person. So this event is going to feature musicians and advocates for nuclear disarmament, and it's going to be great to return to in-person events. We encourage everyone on this call in New York City to attend. The third event we have planned is an American-Japanese youth exchange, which is going to be an informational and networking event in early August. This is going to be hosted by another one of the Reverse the Trend interns, Karuna. So at the core of this event will be youth. It's going to be majority college and high school level students. It's going to feature Japanese and American student organizations that center around denuclearization and local advocacy. And we hope that everyone attending is going to be able to exchange social media information, contacts, and other important information to help allow the event to be an opportunity for collaboration between international youth in Japan and the United States. And lastly, we're planning a conference on Fukushima in the Pacific in mid-August. And this event is going to center around the Japanese government's decision to release contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean, which we believe is a huge mistake, a horrible decision. It's going to be organized and held by RTT's Pacific Youth Committee, which will also be unveiled, with many members of the University of the South Pacific. So with these events, we're going to be launching RTT Canada, RTT Pacific Youth Committee, RTT Japan, RTT Francophone, and RTT Korea. And we're actively seeking climate advocates to organize climate events with and to plan a campaign on climate and nuclear disarmament advocacy. And I believe we have a Google form developed, so if you are interested in getting involved with RTT, please fill out this Google form to try and work with us. And thank all of you.
Yes, and I should just add, for those who are on the call from the Pacific, that the time has not been set yet for the conference on Fukushima. So you may have noticed that the time, length is very long, but please do not worry about that because that time will be determined by the Pacific Youth Committee. So it will be much shorter than, has been indicated in the calendar. So I'll hand the floor back to Jed.
Thanks so much, Jack. And just a reminder, the Google form, if you want to join RTT Canada or any of those other places that we listed, is in the chat right now. And then last, before we go into breakout rooms, we have Isaac speaking. He is also a youth coordinator with RTT who recently graduated from UPenn, and he's going to be discussing our global youth network that we're going to launch soon.
Hello, everybody. Glad to see so many faces. Hopefully, once we get in the breakout rooms, I can get to know some of you a lot better. But thank you again for coming and for taking the time to learn about what RTT has to offer and how to network with us. And one of the key tools that we're going to be offering, starting on August 30th, after the International Day Against Nuclear Tests, we're going to be launching our Global Youth Network and Community Forum. It's going to be a subdivision where we share our own stories, our own perspectives on nuclear activism and disarmament, as well as promoting events and ongoings in the local community. From time to time, diplomats will also be invited to interact virtually with network participants, and we hope as a result that this e-learning approach will allow participants to gain access to resources, information that will help them communicate more effectively. As you can see on the presentation, the community forum is divided into different regions, and these subfolders are based on specific topics such as climate activism and nuclear disarmament. And we're hoping that once the forum launches, people can utilize these channels to share their perspectives on these issues, as well as using it to promote online and in-person events, as well as keeping others informed about important developments, both in the wider global sphere, as well as any events going on locally in your community, in your township or county. We believe most importantly that it's important for everyone in a network to stay informed, both on current events, as well as on opportunities to enact change.
Thank you. And I would just like to add that just saw like the login. So we encourage everyone, especially the youth, to create their own logins, register with the online community. So I'm going to add that to the chat box now. So there it is. So basically, you will create a new create a user profile, and then you'll be notified via email once your account has been reviewed, and then you'll be able to access the forum itself. And there are different categories on various nuclear disarmament issues. And then, as Isaac mentioned, there's also a area that's broken down. It's called "What's Happening in Your Community." And that's broken down into regional segments. So you'll be able to, the whole idea is to be able to interact with your peers from that particular region of the world. So yes, and I'll give the floor back to Jed.
Well, thank you so much, Isaac. So I think that concludes the speakers portion of what we have planned. And then now we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I was going to hand that back to Christian to explain more about how that's going to work.
Thank you, Jed. So we're going to break out into about 3 breakout rooms. Jack is creating the rooms now. And essentially we just, want this to be an opportunity to get to know everyone and to interact and to really, be able to, build, bonds of friendship. So Jack, please create the breakout rooms.
Yeah, making them now. Just give me 1 minute to finish adding every.
And there are also a series of discussion questions that you can choose to, just to prompt some discussions amongst all of you. So just please give us a second as we're launching the breakout rooms.